ChatGPT made AI feel harmless, a box you type into, a voice that answers back, a tool that lives behind glass. That design choice mattered, because when intelligence arrives as a chat, your brain files it under software: helpful, optional, contained. And when something feels optional, people stop watching what it becomes. But inside the labs building these systems, ChatGPT isn't the destination. It's the interface. The next phase of AI won't be something you choose to use. It will be something that makes choices around you, plans, decides, acts quietly, not as a robot walking down your street, but as a layer inside finance, logistics, medicine, security, hiring, and the systems that quietly decide what counts as normal. By the time most people realize intelligence has stopped answering questions and started choosing actions, opting out will no longer be possible. This episode is about the lab pushing hardest into that next phase. The one building what comes beyond chat. And once you see what after ChatGPT really means, you'll start noticing the shift in places you were never meant to notice, because they weren't designed to feel like decisions. Most people think the AI race is about the best chatbot, the most fluent replies, the smartest tone, the most human-feeling answers. That's the race we can see. Visibility creates a shortcut in the mind. What's public must be most powerful. That logic works in apps. It fails in infrastructure, because the most consequential AI work rarely looks exciting. It looks like evaluation pipelines, long-horizon training runs, safety stress tests, systems that can use tools without being told exactly how, models that don't just respond, but pursue outcomes. Chat made AI accessible. Accessibility is not the same as control. In fact, accessibility is often how control disappears, because systems become trusted before they become irreversible. Here's the real human consequence. If you think the story ends at AI answers questions, you stay relaxed. You keep treating AI like entertainment. Meanwhile, the real power shift moves to a different question. When intelligence stops answering and starts choosing actions, who chose the intelligence? Inside Frontier Labs, the focus has shifted from helpful answers to measurable capabilities: planning, tool use, long-term memory, reliability under pressure, and the ability to operate across environments without constant human steering. If the interface is what you notice, what is the system doing when you're not looking? After ChatGPT is not one new product. It's a change in form. Chat is reactive. You ask, it answers. Agents are proactive. They wait for goals, then they move. An agent doesn't just tell you how to book a flight, it books it. An agent doesn't just explain your emails, it triages them, drafts replies, schedules meetings, follows up, negotiates times, and nudges outcomes until the task is complete. That sounds convenient. It also changes something subtle. Responsibility begins to blur, because once a system acts on your behalf, reversing its decisions starts to feel like friction, not freedom. When a system acts on your behalf, it doesn't feel like AI use. It feels like life getting smoother. That's how normalization happens. The labs building beyond chat are training models to do 4 things at once: reason, remember, plan, and operate through tools. Reasoning means the model can break problems down instead of guessing. Memory means it can carry context forward across days and weeks. Planning means it can choose sequences of actions toward a goal. Tool use means it can touch the real world through software. Browsers, databases, code, transactions, internal systems. Put those together and the system becomes less like a chatbot and more like a co-pilot for civilization. Here's the lived reality sentence. This is the layer that will decide whether you get flagged, fast-tracked, approved, delayed, escalated, or quietly deprioritized. often without anyone saying an AI did that. The shift isn't that AI gets smarter. The shift is that AI gets agency. The most valuable breakthroughs right now aren't flashy demos. They're reliability upgrades, fewer hallucinations, stronger reasoning under constraints, safer tool use, better refusal boundaries, and systems that can follow complex instructions without drifting. If a machine can pursue goals, whose goals become the default? The lab leading this after-chat phase has a specific profile. It doesn't optimize for applause. It optimizes for compounding advantage. It builds the parts the public never sees: compute strategy, research depth, evaluation standards, internal safety frameworks, deployment pathways, integration with real institutions. That lab is DeepMind, not because of one headline moment, but because its center of gravity has always been deeper than consumer products. DeepMind's identity wasn't make a chatbot, it was solve intelligence. Games were never the point, they were a proving ground. Protein folding wasn't a flex, it was a signal. AI can do scientific work at scale. Systems research wasn't academic, it was a blueprint for what happens when learning systems become general tools for complex reality. DeepMind sits inside an ecosystem that can do something uniquely powerful: absorb breakthroughs into infrastructure. This is where quiet becomes strategic. Consumer AI needs trust. Institutional AI needs legitimacy. Frontier AI needs time. DeepMind has always acted like it's building for the decade after the decade. This matters to the viewer in lived reality because the lab shaping standards quietly shapes what gets adopted widely. The lab defining safe enough influences what your employer, your bank, your insurer, and your government will consider acceptable to deploy. Here's the uncomfortable part: oversight tends to chase whatever is loudest. Quiet labs avoid that gravity, not because they're villains, because power rarely volunteers to be constrained. The deepest form of overtaking in AI isn't a better demo. It's becoming the default supplier of methods, architectures, evaluation styles, safety definitions, and deployment patterns that other institutions copy without noticing. When standards are set quietly, do you ever get a vote? I used to think the AI future would arrive as a moment you could point to, a launch, a breakthrough, a before and after day. Now it feels more like weather: pressure building, systems adjusting, decisions shifting slightly, until one day you realize you've been living under a different sky for months. ChatGPT changed how we search, write, and think. The next phase changes how the world decides. When AI becomes agentic, it becomes attractive to every system under stress. Healthcare queues, supply chains, customer service, fraud detection, emergency response, security operations, hiring pipelines, welfare eligibility, migration processing, loan approvals. Institutions don't adopt agency because they love futurism. They adopt it because they're overwhelmed. This is the ethical needle hiding in the machinery. Efficiency becomes the moral argument. When resources are scarce, systems that optimize outcomes feel inevitable. That's where the risk lives. Because optimization always chooses a definition of success. A machine can be fair according to one metric and brutal according to another. A system can reduce total harm while increasing harm for people who are already marginal. The public conversation stays stuck on whether AI can write poems. The real story is whether AI becomes the silent layer that assigns you a future. Low risk, high risk, trustworthy, unstable, worth investment, not worth the effort. The moment AI moves from answering questions to choosing actions, your autonomy becomes negotiable. Not through a dramatic takeover, through convenience, through delegation. Through the slow moment when you stop deciding because the system already knows what you meant. That's what after ChatGPT really means. Not smarter text, smarter control. If this changed how you see the AI race, tap like. It helps more people notice the power shift happening under the interface. Subscribe to become part of the Unlocked and join us each week as we track the forces quietly reshaping what it means to be human. If someone you know still thinks AI ends at chatbots, share this episode with them. The most important phase isn't the one that talks, it's the one that acts. Because the future isn't coming, it's already here.